Hey everyone, how's it going? Can anybody hear me? Hey Rune, hey Silk the Absent, hey Gaz, can you all hear me? Yes, oh good, fantastic, fantastic. So nice to see you all. Uh, yeah, no, really cool. Got sound, fantastic. Hope that my level's all right. This will be published afterwards. I asked a load of people on, I think, Twitter, and yeah, I do have it's actually a friction blister. So yeah, as people on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube itself for some Ask Me Anything stuff. So that's great. So wow, who have we got there? Dana Reed, Cranky Lockpicker, Rune International, Nox Locks, loads of people. Oh, Gav as well. Hey Gav. Raymond Ruthier, Ralph Parks. I've got all sorts of people joining. That's fantastic. So yeah, this is my what was it? 100,000 subscribers. AMA, Ask Me Anything. I got a whole bank of questions already. So if there isn't anything that anybody really wants to ask me on the chat, then that's cool. I've got over there. You can't see it. I took sort of pictures of all the questions that popped up on various social medias, and yeah, we can really get going. So I can kick off. Oh, who else we got there? We got Tequila Dave there. Hi. Lots of people saying congrats. Lots of hellos to everybody. Oh, Forte and Blues. I see there as well. I can't even get 500 subs. Says Rune International. I'll be honest with you. It's a miracle that I even got further than like 100 subs myself. Especially when you see some of my earlier videos. I'm not even sure I make that great content now. I think I got here by sheer willpower and pumping out. Was it almost like 1,100 videos? So yeah, it's hard, especially on YouTube. I think I did an experiment on TikTok where I've got something ridiculous like 101,000 followers in 3 months. I just realised that I hated every minute of it, so I haven't published anything on there for ages and ages and ages and ages, and I don't really think I will. Oh, GKeyman565. Hi there, thank you. Oh, okay. First question. I think we got 5 of your favourite locks to pick. Now, I don't have every single lock with me today, but I do have a few. I don't know whether I've got many to hand because obviously I don't want to just leave dead air. But yeah, some of my favourite locks to pick has got to be, what do I really like? Okay, so this is going to be really controversial, but I really like picking things like the Master Lock M1, these things, and it isn't really because they're a fun lock to pick per se. It's more that association with first picking a lock, which the thing is, these locks are marketed so well, and if you don't know anything about locks, especially when I started lock picking, I honestly thought these were quite good. So I have that an association with me starting lock picking and picking things which I thought were good, even though I know now then really, really easy to pick. So this is more like a guilty pleasure rather than a good lock, but it's certainly one of the locks I recommend any new picker to pick. Other locks which I really like are, again, any of the small abaces, because they're such good value. They really are. The spools in here are fantastic. They feel great. Everything about these small Abus padlocks, all the way up to the Abus rocks, actually, they pick basically the same. They just have great feedback, and they're pretty good value for money. What else do I like? Hold on one second. probably my favourite lock to pick ever is the American lock 1100 series. I know the tolerances aren't great in these, which means that once you know how to pick them, you can tend to pick them in a few seconds. But everything about this is fun. You know, it's got serrations, it's got serrated key pins, overset traps, it's got spools, serrated spools actually. You can see some of the sort of pins in here actually. It's a really, really brilliant lock to pick. Other ones are ISEO and CISA Euro cylinders are awesome as well, and the Abus C83 is a really good one. I think that's a bunch. There's so many locks out there that to say what's my favourite, but if I had to choose one which I could pick over and over again, it's the American Lock 1100 series. Cranky Lock Picker asks, how do I come up with so many different topics for videos? Oh, and thank you for watching. Actually, how do I come up? How do I come up for ideas for videos? The trick is I film ahead. I've probably got 40 or 50 videos not to release at any one point in time. So that means that I can just do, because I normally do like 2 lock picking videos a week, one usually not that great a lock and an easy lock, one that's a bit harder, and then towards the end of the week I try to do something different. Maybe it's a review, or I don't know, I create something or modify something or whatever it is, or do a tutorial. And I think coming up with ideas, sometimes you have like 10 ideas at the same time, sometimes nothing for weeks, and I write them all down and stick them into a little, not really a spreadsheet, just a Word document. So I've got all of my ideas and I can just pick and choose. Like today I had an idea, it's a bit rainy outside, but it's an idea that I could do basically with a rotary multi-tool and a couple of files and some glue. and I could do that video, but it's also a fun video. It's one of the ones which probably nobody will watch particularly, but it's something which I like to do, and it's just coming up with the ideas it's hard, but it's like I'm always just sort of looking around and thinking about stuff all the time. My mind's quite active, so it's just capturing those ideas, filming ahead, so if you do have a dry spell, nobody knows, you know, people watching don't know. Rob McDade said, do I feel the same enthusiasm and excitement when I pick a lock for the first time as when you did? Sometimes, yeah. So there are times where I just don't want to pick locks. There are just times where I'm tired or bored, or maybe I've had my butt bitten by a brutally hard lock, and it's just made me feel a bit sad about lock picking and that I can't pick any locks. So sometimes I just have a bit of a break. I think I went recently, I was poorly as well, but recently I went almost 2 weeks without picking a single lock. And you wouldn't know because, like I said, I film ahead quite a long way. But that was really good. And when I came back to it, I picked a whole bunch of locks, including this challenge lock, which I released this week, I think, which was such a hard lock to pick, but I picked it, and the sort of that rush at the end of it, I felt like, I can pick locks. It was really good. So yeah, do I feel the same enthusiasm and excitement when I pick a lock for the first time? Sometimes, yeah, I do, especially when I go back to things like you know, simple master locks and things. It's strange, but the fact that again, it's that association with me starting to learn to lockpick and the feeling of doing it properly for the first time, and with that repeatability and reproducibility. So sometimes I just get a little, as I said, guilty, cheeky rush from picking simple locks like this, just because they're so common, you know. And sometimes just messing around with things which, again, other people think are good, does make you feel a bit more confident and happy. So yeah, sometimes. Gray Hasroot says, help Noob out and hit the like button. Yeah, please do hit that like. It all helps. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Just interact in general, really. So do I have a license for those lockpicks? Hold on. This is from YouTube commentator. Do you have to have a license for those lockpicks like you do for butter knives? Obviously, I've got 10 butter knife licenses. You don't want me spreading people's butter left, right, and centre, do you? I mean, I'd be a nuisance to the world. But for licensing, no. In fact, locksmithing isn't in the UK a licensed trade. anybody can call themselves a locksmith, and some do. The MLA, the Master Locksmiths Association. Hold on, I think I've got a. Let's have a look. Actually, I think I've got a trolley token from them. Here you go. So this association actually does a good job at trying to get people to do these examinations. It looks good. It's like a sort of a stamp of quality. Some of the exams are quite hard from what I hear, but you don't need any qualifications from the MLA in the UK to be a locksmith. You don't need any licenses for lock picking tools, and actually it would be silly because you can pick locks with hairpins and, you know, paper clips, and making a lockpick is out of a piece of like wiper blade like that, for example. No, this is a tension tool, but you get my point. It's so easy. It'd be almost impossible to control anyway. And you've also got to consider that even though you know, lockpicking has in the past especially been used for criminal activities, the vast majority, in fact it's so hard to find any stats about lockpicking in crime, in the West at least, that it's barely a non-entity. So I think licenses for lockpicks in the UK will just make no sense, especially, you know, it's like saying, do you have a license for bricks because people throw them through windows to steal stuff out of cars? I mean, it's like, you know, it'd all be a bit silly, really. Who else we got? Vladimir, Gazar, Hans, Lockpicking Cuba. Congrats on the 100,000 subs, thank you. I'm just trying to have a look here. Any questions? Any locks you hate to pick? Ooh, yeah, quite a few actually. Some of them because I can't pick them, and that annoys me. So, I mean, I haven't put a lot of time into it, but things like Asa Twins, I've never really got anywhere with these. I just haven't. So they don't bring me a lot of joy. I have to say that really difficult locks only bring me joy if I can pick them. I mean, maybe that's I don't know. That's just the way it is. Other locks that I don't enjoy picking, not really big fan of the Medico biaxials, because rotating pins is honestly just a bit of a pain. I don't really like it, but for the most part, most locks I really do like picking. But just a couple of those ones which are just that little bit extra, not really a big fan of, I'll be honest. GD guy or good guy said, what are my 3 favourite hooks? Well, actually, you can probably see some of them here. So probably the ones I use the most, this Peterson Gem. There's also the Lunatic and the, where is it, the Southward, specifically the one in 23,000 you can't buy anymore, 07B. So those would be probably, maybe a Sparrow short hook as well, my top 3. But this hook, which, and he hasn't made any videos for a while, Daz Evers, he made me this short hook, and it's amazing. This particular lockpick is great. It's actually in my everyday kit, and I rarely do that for a handmade pick because I'm terrified of breaking it, but it's so good. I don't know what it is. I think it's this specific angle and hook type. I love it. But yeah, sort of these here are pretty much my favourite profiles. What else we got? Oh yeah, unlocked us. Yeah, taking a break can help. It can do. I mean, it's strange. I don't try and like do things for YouTube. I do things for myself, and I love this hobby. But I'm sort of glad in a way that I've got this thing I have to do, this YouTube thing, so that I'm constantly taking that time out of my busy life to have that time with locks and do some channel. Because I think if I didn't, it'd just be too easy to just play computer games, which is another one of my big hobbies, which is great, by the way. But it's nice to do something and think about something, be creative, and do some teaching. And I think it's good to have a mix. So I'm very glad that this is here. But taking a break is really useful, really nice, and really useful sometimes. How much time do you spend per week to make content for the channel? Oh, 14 Blues, tip me. Thank you so much. I think there's like, I don't know how it works, but there's like this, what's it called? You can show support for lock Noob. I'm not going to ask anybody to do it. If you want to, then that's obviously fantastic. I'm sure YouTube takes a cut as well, and then the taxman will take the rest. But I really appreciate it, 40 Blues. Thank you so much. So yeah, Moki's Locksport, Mokis Locksport said, how much time do I spend per week to make content for the channel? Good question. Honestly, sometimes I might spend a couple of hours. Like I might be able to knock out a couple of picking videos and maybe a quick review of something in 2 to 3 hours a week. Sometimes though, I'll have a lock where both the evenings that I have set aside to do this, it would take both of those up just to learn to pick it, and then I have to film it the next week. So it's somewhere between, I guess, 2 and at the most 10 hours a week, but that's spread over just 2 evenings. I barely get any sleep. Oh, this is a good one. This is a crazy family tube. What's the hardest lock to pick? That's a very good question, and it doesn't really have an answer. I mean, there are locks out there which I know people have picked on YouTube, but I think there's a lot of locks out there which are practically impossible to pick in the field. Meaning if you don't know what's inside the lock, even if you have the right tools, the positioning and where it is and its sort of wear and all those things just make it virtually impossible to pick anyway. So there's a lot out there. Some really, like, if you look at the what's it called? I'm trying to look at the name. The high security mechanical locks. If you look in there, there are some locks which I can't even. I've never even seen with such complicated mechanisms. It's almost an impossible question to answer, but there are a lot of locks which I do consider to be in the field for the most part practically impossible to pick, or so not worth your time that even if you could pick it, you probably had to practice on that specific lock over and over and over and over, and then go to that specific lock and then like scout it out and get the tools ready. I mean, do you know what I mean? There's so many locks like that. It's almost impossible to answer. Truthfully. Ian Watson, hi everybody. Hi Ian. Do I have any lock related tattoos? No I don't, but I've got this. I had this design made up for just some stickers, and I really like this. It's the rose is the national flower of England. I'm not, by the way, some like person who's particularly, or in any way for that matter, I've got British pride, I guess, to a certain degree. We're not really a nationalist, but I do like the idea that you've got that English rose. No, I'm an English rose, and the lock Noob made out of locks and things. I just really like that, and that would make a really kind of cool tattoo, or part of it maybe. But the truth is, I don't really have any tattoos. My one thing is I'd sort of regret having one. So yeah, I'm a blank canvas. I don't know. Rune and Sashel, is it hard to stay anonymous? Yeah, sort of. I mean, I only really stay anonymous because I've got a family, and I did when I started the channel, and it's one thing for me to be sort of known and where I live and all the rest of it, but I keep this very separate from my family in general, actually, and friends for the most part. Outside of all this stuff is very much me and my lockpicking friends and the wider lockpicking community. It's not really something I inflict on a lot of people. So my anonymity is really more about my family's anonymity, rather is about my personal anonymity. So yeah, there is that. Is it hard? I don't think so. There's a few people who actually know my real address and name, but it's not that kind. Not that many people, and also that it's not really the kind of community where, because it's such a good community where, you'd get doxed. So yeah, is it hard? Not really. But of course, it does rely on the goodwill of others to a degree. Oh, let's have a look. What else we got? Oh, LPM, thank you. So congrats on the 100k. I'm good at picking multi-lock. As a locksmith, I picked 3 in the field. Yeah, multi-lock actually, somebody said about favourite locks to pick. Multi-lock, especially the classics and integrators, are really good fun picks actually, once you get used to them. What's it? Oh, Yukov, who I actually know in real life, says congrats, I think, on the 100k. So thanks, Yukov, appreciate it. Oh, Rob Sorensen from Canada. Let's have a look here. Just going back to right at the beginning, see if there's any questions that I missed before I go on to the ones from social media. Favorite lockpicking channel, keep up good work. I've lost my... Oh, I find it very difficult to find binding pins. Can you recommend a padlock for feedback? A padlock for good feedback? Depends what you want, really. I mean, if you really are a beginner, I recommend everybody starts here. I really do. The Master Lock 3 is 4 pins, the bitting's not very extreme, wide open keyway, and you can put really heavy tension on and get really good feedback from it. So recommend that. If you want to do security pins, then I would very much recommend a lot of the ABUS padlocks, but look for this sort of keyway. There are others which are a bit more difficult, and these just give you really good feedback. So that's for Barry Brimble. Let's have a look. I think that's the earlier questions done. Oh, padlock for good feedback. Berg Vector depends. Again, you've got the alpha, the gamma. Some of those can be quite tricky. And also some of the cheaper Bergs I find are a little inconsistent. That's just my opinion. Vladimir says, may I ask, there are a lot of exceptionally unneeded tools. Are there? Or there are a lot of exceptionally unneeded tools on the market. Will you ever not recommend some of these? So I did a whole video on tools I wouldn't recommend for beginners. The problem with... so there's a couple of things here regarding recommending things and saying things aren't very good, is the fact that quite a lot of stuff which I don't think is that good, I often end up using at some point. And I know it sounds weird, but I end up using thinking, wow, this is actually quite useful to have around. A great example is the Goso 24-piece set. I'm just trying to see if I've got it to hand anywhere. So the last thing I didn't recommend, by the way, was the Grim Workshop credit card pick sets. I mean, if you look at that hook there, you can probably see why that didn't get a recommendation. I tend to just not review stuff if it's gonna, you know, if somebody says, oh, would you do a review, and they pass me something and I just don't like it, I tend to say, look, you know, you're sending this to me for a review, I don't think I can honestly give it a good review, then I tend not to actually do the review. If there's something which I want to review and I don't think it's going to be good, I actually buy it with my own money. This being an example, I had an inkling that these wouldn't be very good. I mean, saying that, the profiles on here aren't too bad, but the workmanship is rubbish, and they do another card where every tool is virtually unusable. But yeah, my problem in general with saying things are junk is that this is a great example. Are these good? And the answer is not really. They're quite thick. They're made of a metal which is quite soft, and you can probably see here just from that, got a bit of a bend in it. But you've got to bear in mind that sometimes this is all people can afford, and I've actually used this in a whole load of videos, especially these sort of what I think of as dimple rakes, but they're more like wafer rakes, but you know, get over that. And these I've used quite a lot as well, these, I guess, automotive or double-sided wafer lock picks. I've actually used them a lot. So it's like, what would I say if I was going to review this again? I'd say, like I did before, I do not recommend this to beginners. However, if you do buy it, you will be able to pick some locks. And the good thing is you can bend the hooks back when you do, and you will bend them. As an intermediate picker, I do recommend, if you've got some spare money, picking up this set, because some of these tools for the money aren't too bad, and I've actually used them quite a lot. Can you see the difficulty? It's like really hard to say something's junk. Is this the kit that I'd recommend? No, absolutely not. Is it junk? Sort of no, it isn't. I've used it more than a lot of better kits as well, just because of its uniqueness. Would I recommend it? Not directly, but with those caveats, sort of. It's so hard, so hard. But yeah, there's like I said, there's a lot of unnecessary stuff when you're learning to pick. Like, for example, would I recommend an electric pick to people learning to pick locks? No, nor a snap gun. You don't learn anything from it, nor bump keys or impressioning tools or a lot of that stuff, really. Is it bad? No, a lot of it works really well. But unless you're exploring the boundaries of the hobby and that interests you, there's a lot of stuff that's just completely unnecessary for new pickers, because you're not learning anything about actually picking locks. Doing those things, they're just entry methods. But that in itself might be something that somebody's interested in, and they get a thrill from doing it. And if it's their own locks in their own house, they're not damaging or bothering anybody, then again, whilst I wouldn't recommend it if you're learning to pick, I bought them when I learned to pick, and I don't regret it. So it's a slightly a hypocritical thing for me to say. It's really hard. Pate B or Patty B or Pat Ebb, I don't know, is saying, I'm having a lot of trouble picking master locks, high security, top shelf retail keyways after I lost my flat bar potentialers. Any other new pickers been thrown in the loop by their keyways? Master lock actually do some half decent locks. Not many, but some pretty good ones. They do 3 dimple locks, which I really like. Actually, one of them, the really thick chunky one I did a video on recently, did it out of the pack pick, I would actually use in the right circumstances. I'm a bit worried about a twist attack, but as long as you like had something which hid the shackle, I think it's really not bad. Other ones are the Master Lock Pro and the 911 931. They're all very similar. Sprung cores, shrouded shackles, quite a tight keyway, good spools. So yeah, they're not bad, are they? Oh, Rob Sorensen says, pretty new to lock picking. I've really enjoyed your videos. Thank you so much. Anything else in here? Rune says, good tension tools and a medium hook is the best way to learn and understand lock picking. I would say a medium and a short hook, saying along these sorts of depths, like that, those depths, and a whole bunch of tensioners. You really can't have enough, because the key to lock picking is getting and maintaining tension on the lock. So you can never have enough. I've got a whole load under here, which I just, honestly, I've probably got just about as many, if not more, tension tools as picks, because just getting that sweet amount of tension in the key, it's what it's all about. Oh, Wayne joins says, evening everyone, what or who first inspired my interest in locks and lock picking? I think I've said this story before. There's a few people who, once I found YouTube pickers, inspired me, and I definitely want to shout all of those people out, some of whom sadly aren't making videos anymore, and that saddens me. But nevertheless, before I bought my first padlock and picks and all that kind of stuff, I watched a really awful video with somebody with one of those plastic practice padlocks. Hold on, I might have one. One of those. And they were doing this, like, they're clearly selling courses to do escape and evade, and they were showing how you can just rake one of these open. I didn't realise at the time that these pins are rounded and breathing on them opens these locks up. And I was actually like, oh wow, that's kind of cool, and a see-through plastic one. And now thinking back, and I wish I could find that video, I'd link to it if I could remember what it was. But the person doing it had no idea what they were doing. Now I know. They basically were just stabbing the inside of one of these locks with some rake or another and got some lucky open. But at the time I didn't know. So I ended up buying one of these, and the set of picks which came with it, which are the same ones you get in the James Bond credit card plastic thing, they're terrible, but enough to get you into these and a couple of other simple locks. But when I first found YouTube, the names which came up, of course, were Bossie and Bill, naturally, and I probably watched Bill pretty much the most, I'd say, because of his charisma, and it's a range of videos and topics and things like that. So it's Bossie and Bill for sure. But there's a lot of other ones, people who you may not remember or heard of. So there's obviously a Tensile Spider, was somebody that was in the UK. Odyssey 2, I was watching a lot of. Who else was I watching at the time? One of my favourite all-time channels, hasn't published anything for a long time, but really got into his stuff, which is Potty Pile, Potty 314. Absolutely, just a really nice guy as well. I'm more drawn to the personalities and a lot of the picking, and some of the videos that Potty was doing was really excellent as well. Pete Restall as well. We actually became quite good friends. Sadly, he's not doing any videos anymore, but he was somebody who I watched an awful lot of. And Foxy from Red Cat Imaging, of course, so a lot of the channels that I really liked are people just doing something a little bit different. It wasn't all high security locks. It was just that, I don't know, making interesting tools, approaching a lock a different way, stripping it down, explaining what's going on, just being nice people in general, not toxic or full of I don't know, egos, nothing like that. And then of course, then I think that they were the ones I watched. And then of course I found people like Lockpicking Lawyer and so many other fantastic pickers out in the community who've done some brilliant stuff. You know, yeah, so many people. Is it Tumblr? And yeah, just so many. I could probably go on for like literally ever describing all the YouTube channels I used to watch. So yeah, these days I barely get a chance to watch anything. But if I had a recommendation, and you probably are all subscribed anyway. Oh, sorry, I forgot Leon's Lockpad and Daz Evers as well. Sorry. Yeah, but if I could recommend one active YouTuber who you are all probably subscribed to anyway, but just has some of the best picking, and again, a great personality, thinks outside the box. Talan Pick from Spain. Puts a lot of effort into putting subtitles in the videos. Just, yeah, really go watch him. Far better picker than I am. Rune International, yeah, we all miss Pete, Foxy and Potty. Yeah, I know, it's rubbish, isn't it, Rune? They I mean, genuinely, they had some great content, and I learnt a lot from them. So what else we got? I'm just trying to find any. Kappa 1611 says stabbing inside of locks and getting lucky open describes my lockpicking skills. Yeah, I feel that one, buddy. Oh, it's nice. Jeffrey McGarry came to lockpicking because of Lockpicking Lawyers today because of Lock Noob. I'm just trying to find any old questions. So I'm trying to keep up with them all. I probably missed a few questions. Just keep asking them. If I don't answer them, just keep popping them up. I'll probably come back to them if they come around. Sorry if I miss any. It's really not my intention, genuinely. I love answering your questions. Oh, hi from Sweden. Congrats on 100k. Any advice on picking the Asa 700? I got very. I've not got one on video, and I tried to gut this one and made a right mess. So I had to do this. But these are just really hard. They're really hard. On Reddit, they're a black belt lock, and for very good reason. Extremely precise insides. They have just all sorts of undercutting, Christmas tree pins. They're just horrible, brutal things. The key to these, like I've had many opens with them, but I do know that the key is to have good tension control. I'm just trying to find something like this. Something which fits nicely, and it doesn't matter, something like that. And to float pick, which means that what you're doing is that you are, I have another question about float picking. What you're doing is, say the lock will rotate, counter rotate quite far. Sorry, got it in camera. Counter rotate quite far in a false set. What you can do is you can basically just hold your finger so that it acts as a natural stop to the core. Essentially, you're stopping it rotating all the way to the end of that false set, and but you're still keeping the set pins above the shear line. Lots of people call it float picking. But it just requires you to have some real finesse. If you go back and watch the lockpicking video of the challenge lock I did recently with the piston pins, I float picked that lock entirely. Shame, I think my fingers are about here, but you can sort of see how I'm doing it. It's just keeping that core, the tension in the core floating. It's quite hard, and there's very few locks that really require it, but it's a technique worth mastering. Just trying. Any other questions? Locknut says, "Congrats, thank you." Unlock says, "I break picks all the time. Some can be repaired, and new handles. Rest go in the pick graveyard." I'm lucky actually. Only snap about one pick a year, but it's horrible when it happens, especially when it's like quite an expensive one that you like. Oh, is it possible to open a lock with magnets? So yes, sort of. There are a couple of. Is it the somebody will know? Please pop it into the chat. There's an Ever which has these sort of big disc magnets. I believe that the Stasi had a pick for them, which was magnetic back in the day, and I believe that you can decode it using magnets and a stethoscope to hear how it's set, I think. And then there's another one which is a Japanese lock which has either so inside you've got pins which are either pole magnetically or neutral, and the key has opposing magnets, and what you do is essentially you need to stick a small magnet on the end like this size. Hold on. It's amazing what I've got to hand, isn't it? What I don't have to hand. On a piece of wood dowel or a non-magnetic probe, super glue it on, and then feel your way along to see which side of the magnet sticks, and then make up a key using either a piece of wood or 3D printed housing, and then you make up the key with the opposing magnets that you feel, and then or nothing, and then you can make the key up. So somebody will know what those locks are, so please do that. Unlock says, "We miss you, Bossy and Bill." Yeah, absolutely. I miss his content too. Other lock you can pick sort of with magnet is the ABS and Federal locks, which have that magnetic pin. You essentially have to lift a pin out of the shear line. And Era have a similar lock, don't they now? The high security Eras do. And you just need a slightly bigger, flatter magnet. This is, I think, a 4x1mm magnet. And that's exactly what I use to fit on top of that magnetic pin when I'm picking it. Philip Wells, congrats on reaching 100k. Thank you so much, guys. Yukov says, "Big love for Tensile Spider." Absolutely. Rune says he started his Ruko school sets of videos, which, by the way, you should go watch. I haven't watched as many as I should do because Rune keeps telling me that the question I had on my video or whatever is actually in one of his videos, but the ones I have managed to watch are excellent. And if you want to know anything about Ruko, Rune is your man. Sir Ivor says, "I've been working on a number of the detainer locks, no audible clicks or movement of the core. Is that down to too little tension? Could be a few things with disetainers, actually. They can be quite difficult. Let me go get something. Hold on. 1 second. So this is made by SSDev. I don't know if they still sell them. This is an ABUS Plus core, actually. A particularly difficult one. Now, the thing is, with a lot of these locks, you see this has got these false gates and the true gates, which are the deeper ones. You can see them coming in, then the bar will just drop down. So cool. The thing is that the bit which turns, so you got all the discs turning, but the thing which actually turns the rest of the lock and turns the whole thing, so that bit of the movement from there, is usually a disc at the back, a disc at the front, or rarely a disc in the middle. So if you're top tensioning on a good quality lock where actually the tensioning disc is at the bottom, then yes, turning the tension up can make the whole thing bind if you're lucky, to the point where you can pick the other discs and then sort of come back to the top disc. It's a technique which I think Lockpicking Lawyer popularized. But some locks, if you just don't tension on the right disc, you don't get feedback. There are other techniques, especially ones which work with the what's it called, the Abloy Classic, where sometimes angling the tool slightly towards the sidebar just gives a bit more pressure on the on this. Another thing is that some locks, sometimes I found with disetainers, that you'll get really good feedback sometimes and you won't other times, and I think it's just the positioning on the tensioning disc and which angle your bias is when you're essentially applying that tension, because it's hard to keep it straight. The tool's somewhere in the middle, so there is that. Dana Reed says, helpful lockpicking lawyer, Boston Bill got me, but Albert LaBelle, Big Al, just got 3,000 subs this week, I think. So go check out Big Al's channel as well. Some really good content there. One person gave me the push. Just have a look. Oh, Nige B's here. Oh, what's a good set of brand for European locks? Lockpicks. We are in a really fantastic age of lockpicking. Now, I guess it's worth me saying that I worked with. I don't get. By the way, whoever I work with, I purposely don't have a cut of any sales, because I don't want to have to push any particular company to get like a few pounds extra. That isn't really my thing. But nevertheless, I have worked with Sparrows, Multipick and Vent, so do bear that in mind. And a lot of other companies have provided stuff for this channel for review, which is a form of sponsorship, so also bear that in mind too. And that's pretty much all of them. So as long as you bear that in mind, and you have to sort of trust me, therefore what I'm saying is true, I think we're spoiled. I think the vast majority of the big name pick makers out there all do good kits. Some are better than others, some are better handled, some have better finish, some have better profile, some have better steel, some have more or less sizes, some just look better than others. But honestly, if you went for a pick set of your budget for pretty much any of the top brands of block pick makers, they're all going to be pretty good. Everybody has their preference, but yeah, it's really hard to say, oh, this one is better than that one. Really hard. There are some fantastic pick makers out there from all corners of the world, and if you get one of the leading brands of lock picks, you're not going to go too far wrong. I mean, there are some caveats. I really like a lot of the Peterson picks, but if you notice, the purple handle ones here are the ones I prefer for European locks because they are 18 thousandths and a slightly thinner shank on them. They are just better for European locks because the 25 thousandths Petersons are, I find, a little bit broad and clunky in some, not all, European locks. So yeah, it's things like that. It's just so, it's almost impossible to say, really. But some people say, oh, picks in 18 thousandths are the best, but I don't really believe that. A lot of I try to use the thickest lockpick I can in with the sort of the thickest lockpick I can for a given lock that gives me the freedom because of the amount of feedback it gives because of the lack of flex. So I've got all sorts of these ones are 25 thousandths, for example. This is 18 thousandths, but the shank is very different in height, and that makes a huge difference. If I get the Southord one here, you can see how thin that is, but this is max yield stainless steel and extremely durable considering its size. Yeah, I mean, it's probably better to just for people in the comments to put what their favourite kits are, truthfully, for European locks, but you can't really go too far wrong. I guess a reasonable but slightly erroneous rule of thumb would be to maybe buy off a European manufacturer, like I know OFC, Vent, Multipick, or Lock Tools, because a lot of those tools are designed with Euro cylinders in mind. But I think that's slightly erroneous because other companies like, I know, Right Hand, Peterson, Sparrows, etc., all do picks which easily pick a lot of European locks as well. So I don't know. But yeah, honestly, anybody in the comments, just stick some. I don't think the comments are saved, but if you want to put some of your favourite pick sets in the comments for people watching now, that'd be fantastic. Ooh, looking for a case of my picks. I probably need 2 to hold them all. A lot of Peterson Sparrow stuff. Other brands like Multipick. Should I get 2 Sparrows Multipick cases? Wow, there's so many good cases out there. Now, again, like I said, I have worked with Sparrows. I will probably continue to work with Sparrows in the future as well. So please take this in regard. But I am not alone in any way whatsoever when I say that the Sparrows Sherman set for a zipped case is really excellent. I haven't had a look at it or played with it yet, but I hope to do so. I know Law Lock Tools has just brought out a trifold. The Peterson and Multipick trifolds are actually really nice as well. The Multipick probably has slightly better leather quality. But if you don't want all these tools to fall out, it's very, very hard to beat one of these Sparrow Sherman cases. In my opinion, if anybody loves that case, then please pop that in the comments as well. If you want something a bit different, and I know I did a review on this and it was sent to me by Spooks. Again, I'm just trying to be like, I like being, I like full disclosure. I think everybody just needs to be more open about where they get stuff. But yeah, this is sent to me by Spooks. But if you want something a bit different, then oh, somebody said this was the stitching. It isn't. It's actually just the edge of the T-towel. These are Cold War bunker T-towels that are repurposed to a roll-up case. I mean, probably not the most durable of all the cases out there. But if you want something that's kind of cool and a bit different, then Spooks do something like that as well. I've probably got pretty much all the cases that you can possibly get from all the manufacturers because I've got so many blooming lockpick sets. But yeah, I'm quite partial to, whilst they're all good in their own ways, I'm quite partial to the Sherman for my own personal needs. Somebody says, I have a lock that's so hard to open by key, I can't open it by picking. You think the lock has a lip or something stopping it turning right? The lock is a Lockwood as Abloy 11040. Oh, it's probably beveled pins. So Here are a couple of Lockwoods I just happen to have lying around, sent to me by Iona on Discord. And some of them, quite easy, some of them really hard, and you just don't know why. Why won't it open? Why won't it turn? And it's because the pins aren't straight. At the top of the pin, they actually angle in slightly like this. And that's on the key pins and the driver pins, or at least definitely the driver pins. And what that means is when it's picked, it will feel like it's picked, and then you'll pick another pin, and then the other one will just drop down a little bit into the keyway. And you can basically, it feels like you're, sorry, I didn't describe that very well. So when it binds, you pick it a little bit, and then another pin will bind behind it. So you sort of never get the full set, and you've got to go along the pins over and over again to get the set. It's really hard to describe, so sorry about that. But yes, it could be beveled pins in a Lockwood, and they are a pain. John Locke says, the question is, what lock, when you picked, felt like the biggest step forwards? So what I call milestone locks, I'd say, and I would say things like the American Lock 1100 and the Abloy Classic, for me, were big milestone locks, just because. And the Multi-Lock Classic. So Multi-Lock Classic, American Lock 1100, and the other one which I just said and I can't remember. But those felt like really big steps for me. I still remember them. Tech A live in the same city as where Sparrows is located. Yeah, I visited there as well. It's Toronto. Well, that's where they're located. But if that's the same place you are, then yeah, Toronto's really nice actually. I've been there once many years ago. Locknut says Lockwoods are designed to be a pain. Yes, they are. Oh, Luke Watkins, what's the most time you spent on getting an open? That is a good question. Sort of hard to say, because when I first started picking, there are locks which took me a very, very long time to pick, which now only take me like 30 seconds to pick. So I guess I'll have to go for a sort of a recent example or two examples. One is, I've got one here. I don't have the other one to hand, I don't think. One is a Rosengren's safe deposit box lock, because it's an 8-disc disc detainer, but I had to pick it, and you can only pick it sort of one way and make no mistakes, and it's horrible. And the other is the Chub Ava, which I actually have a pick for this. It's more of a decoding tool, a professionally made one, and I can tell you for sure it is still really hard to pick these. So those are probably the two which that took the longest to just get an open on. Whether it's worth it or not, I don't know. The Chub Ava took you a long time. Yes, it did. What lock are you most proud of finally opening? Yell for joy when finally got it. That's a good question. Again, I've got over 1,000 videos. I can't quite remember. I wish I did have that sort of memory. There's been a few notable locks where I've gone, wow, you know. A good example is the Vero handbag lock, which I first saw on Bosnian Bill's channel, and it's the first one which had a check pin, and I was really new to picking, and it wasn't a very hard lock to pick, but I remember feeling really proud of getting that open because it had something different to it. It wasn't just the top pins, it was a check pin at the bottom. That was cool. And most recently, honestly, that challenge lock which I picked, probably over the Rosengren's, just because it was so unique and novel. Will I be picking a Kinetica K4 now they're advertising on your channel? Yeah, did you notice that? I find that weird. I mean, I don't think that's something that they probably consciously chose to do, but I've actually seen on my channel some of the Kinetica. They're getting a bit of advertising here, aren't they? No, not a sponsor, trust me. Although they're welcome to. lock companies have actually sent me locks in the past, which is really, really, really chill of them. Oh, Artstroke 2000's here. Artstroke 2000 does some of the best in-depth high security lockpicking videos on YouTube. Not a joke. Go watch Artstroke 2000's videos right now. Who's the most handsome vegetable-shaped picker you know? Well, it's very hard to say. I'd say, I mean, that is a handsome... Artichokes are quite handsome vegetables. They're more like I mean, they're a flower, which I guess is a vegetable. I mean, potty pie, we don't know if he was an apple pie. He could have been. It's hard to say. Would you try picking a Medico Biaxial lock? I'll send you one. Chabon Esparza Jr. I have one. I've picked one. I've got a few already. They're yeah, I like them, but they're not my favourite. What's the tool you have there? Looks like a knife. Which tool? Which tool? This one? I don't know which one you mean. This is, or this one. This is one I designed, made by Sparrows. This is the gut wrench, and probably out of all my designs, the one which I use the absolute most. This is some feeler gauges, which were the ones which go up to 2 millimeters, and I made these into extra thick top of the keyway tension tools, if that's what you meant, I think. Did you get to a plateau in your picking progress, and what do you do to get past the point? I'm wondering if I'm there now, actually. I think you just need to just keep trying and pick locks that interest you and give time to the really difficult ones. I'll be honest with you, the high security locks aren't the ones which I get really the most enjoyment from. I pick a lot of more commonly available commercial locks that people recognize. That's the sweet spot for me. It's not because they're easy, it's just that I guess the thrill of lock picking for me is to pick locks I recognize. A lot of the really high security ones are so, is the word esoteric? I don't know, that and so challenging that sometimes that side of the sport, that, you know, spending 20 hours learning to pick a lock, is that where I really get the most enjoyment from? I'm not sure it is, truthfully. Are you currently working on anything like new tools? Yes, actually. One company I've worked with to try to get some three different tools out with. They're ones which I provided design input to, which I because there's sort of a gap in their lineup that I really wanted to see filled. I'm in a lucky position where sometimes I can say to a company, look, have you thought about making this, because that'll go really well with your stuff. And sometimes they actually make it, which is really cool. So yeah, that's really awesome. I've got another 1 or 2 things out with another company as well, and I've got something else out with another company which I've had not so much design input, but sort of testing and feedback consultation on it. The design was already sort of made up. So yeah, there's still stuff. One thing I'm not trying to do is try to force it. If an idea comes out and it's good, and I'll pursue it. But I can't remember how many designs I've got out now, but it's somewhere just under 20 with a number of different companies. So or I say designs, you know, designs that I've worked on, concepts that they've taken on and made their own designs, and design input and consultation. So yeah, I've got my fingers in a number of pies, and it's really just a hobby for me. It's not it's not a money maker. It's literally just me enjoying the hobby and trying to get stuff made that I think would be really fun or useful for people to have, or would make a lineup of tools from a company just that bit better. Oh, Dana Reed said, do I teach my kids how to pick? My eldest son, I showed them, but they're not that interested. They're more interested in playing computer games with me, truthfully. Oh, Anxious Picker, have I used my lockpick skills in the real world? Yes, a few times. I don't do a lot of automotive picking, but I've helped a friend get into their pick their car door twice now for two lockouts. I refused doing stuff for friends who are in rented accommodation because they rent the lock, they don't own the lock, and so that isn't possible. I did a key extraction for my barber the other day, which is really cool. I'm just trying to think. I did a decode for a neighbour. I've changed the gearboxes in a couple of doors for nearest neighbours, and changed the locks for keyed like in another neighbour's, with guidance from a locksmith friend. So yeah, I've done a bit, but I don't carry a set with me. I don't go looking for it, if you know what I mean. And I do take precautions to know that I don't want to be liable for damaging somebody's property or anything like that. That wouldn't work out for me. Oh, do I have any plans for another video with lockpickers? I would really like that, actually. I genuinely would, but it's just organising it is so hard, really hard. Yeah, I had a sort of a video planned with somebody pre-lockdown, but they had so many bad things happen in their lives that took their time away from them that we had to abandon the project. So that was pretty bad. I want to go visit a picker who will remain nameless, and do a video with them, but that again just requires some time. Yeah, it's all sorts of things. I would love to do more videos. In the end, I'd like to do like a head-to-head. I don't understand or know the technology of being able to do capture a two-way conversation over a stream. Probably have to do it through Twitch, but I don't know much about that. It's almost like I want somebody who knows how to do it to guide me through it, so I know how to do it next time, so I can do it myself. Because I think doing like a duet or a dual video or something with somebody would be really cool. I'd like to, find a channel of somebody who is quite well known and try to teach them to lockpick live or something like that. But not, there's all sorts of ideas, but getting it to come together is so hard, really. Do I keep in contact with Bill, and is he good? You know what? It's strange. I've emailed or contacted or been contacted by or been emailed from so many people, a lot of in the wider community, really well-known people, not so well-known people, and the truth is that everybody's quite courteous and polite and gives each other space. So yes, I have emailed and received emails and stuff from Bill and other people too, but I don't make it my thing to constantly interrupt people's lives, because they're very busy, really busy people, lots of these people, and I'm just some random Brit lockpicker in his study picking locks. So but the community's fantastic. I just don't like to be a burden, if that makes sense. George Penner says custom lock noob handles when. I mean, my 3D printer broke about 3 years ago. I've not really gone back to it. Manufacturing wise, I could probably get some handles sort of made up through one of my contacts, but you've got to make so many, and I don't want to get involved in sales because I genuinely don't have time to, with my work as well as family and friends and all the other things I do. I don't have time to be putting together sales and deal with all, like, setting up a sales website and stuff. If my channel had 500,000 followers and I was raking it in with ad revenue, and I could like quit my day job. But what I do is pretty niche. You're looking at a hairy hands only block picking channel. It's niche stuff here, so I've got to bear in mind that I'm probably not going to see much stuff. Saying that, I've got t-shirts which I do most of the designs for, and I have a professional artist who I've used a number of times do some other designs for me. In fact, I've I've just spent a bunch of money to get another design out for my t-shirts. Not quite lockpick handles, but it's still cool. And the reason I do it is I barely cover costs, if I cover them at all. It's just that there aren't many lockpicking related t-shirts out there genuinely, so I like to at least have some, even if I don't really make any money off it, that people can access, just because nobody else is really doing that. But lockpick handles, unless somebody was going to do, just trying to find an example, something like this, which is to mention me on the handles, which is really awesome. Then no, I've got no plans to sort of release my own stuff, so to speak. I'd rather do it through other people, like Multipick did a really, really big set with some dimple picks in it as well, which is Lock Noob Essential set, something like that. So, you know, but no, I'd rather other companies take on the burden of doing that. And for me, even if it means I don't like get money from it, it really isn't. It isn't something I really want to pursue. Not at this size of my channel anyway. Do I ever hear a click out of 1, 2 in my dreams? Sometimes, yeah. Jeff but Gary said off to work. Thanks for dropping by, Jeff. I'm going to answer some stuff from online. What time is it, Ethan? Oh, it's okay. We can go for a bit longer. Okay, so this is from Snake. I think this is from YouTube. So it says, congratulations, questions for live stream. Are you as or more passionate about other hobbies as you are with locksport? Yeah, so my first passion as a hobby is cooking. I absolutely love cooking. I cook nearly all of the evening meals in my house. I just love it. I love cooking. I like making people happy through food. I like making myself happy through food. Too much, some would say. So yes, there is that. I used to play guitar, but it's not a quiet hobby. And since I only get my time to do hobbies when the kids are asleep, then yeah, that's sort of gone out the window. And computer games. So what am I playing at the moment? I'm playing Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, the Borderlands spin-off, which I'm absolutely loving. Just completed Far Cry, is it 5 or 6? I can't remember which one it is now. The one with Danny as a protagonist. Yeah, I just love computer games. Forza Horizon 5. Yeah, just so many games I've been playing recently. Love it. Oh, and Cyberpunk 2077, which is really worth looking, especially if you get it for quite cheap. It's a bit janky in places, but well worth a play, finally. How many locks are in your collection, and can you show off the collection? The problem is my collection is distributed across like a shed and 4 rooms in the house. I don't think it'd be possible to do it. Maybe one day if the family are out the house for a week and I can get it all together, I could show it off, but that'd be really hard. How many locks? I don't know. There's so many. Hundreds. Rob McDade from YouTube said, a 2-part question. What got me into locksport and picking locks? I've answered that already. It was just curiosity. So it was watching a terrible YouTube video, having a few beers, stumbling across a plastic practice padlock on Amazon with some lock picks, and the rest is history. So do I feel the same excitement when I pick a lock for the first time as you did for the very first pick? I answered that already, so I'll skip that one. Lochim Muntian, possibly. Sorry if I got that wrong. Congratulations. My questions are: what should a beginner do in order to get used with more complicated locks, and how locksport competitions work? Okay, so how would a beginner get better at lock picking? I covered this in other videos, but really you want to start with things like branded laminated padlocks with 4 or 5 pins, because they're nearly always standard pins inside and not very hard to pick. So that's where you should start. then things with sprung cores, then things with like this with security pins, starting out with like a 4 or 5 pin, something like an ABUS or a CASP, or some of the Italian brands, Cisa, Aseo, Vero, or, because of the excellent feedback, and 4 to 6 pins, and then you can move on to sort of the 6-pin Euro cylinders, of which there are multitudes of. So that's how I approach that. And do I get excitement? Sorry, that's the same one. This is from Scott I Don't, who said, "Oh, just congratulations. Watch out of general interest, and it's relaxing for my mind. You've done wonders for me, to say the least, in keeping a calmer head in the times we're living in." Actually, this is actually important. During the whole lockdowns we've had, I think we've all had our ups and downs with our mental health. I think very few people have managed to hold it together all that time. And certainly I really leaned heavily into the hobby and doing design work and working with companies at the beginning of the first sort of lockdown periods, some of which are only just bearing fruits now, so some of that work. So yeah, I'm really glad I've got this, and the wider community and friends who also I've met through lockpicking, who've really helped keep me stable over this time. So it's really nice to think that my content, just in a very small way, could have helped somebody. Rune says, "Stay away from acrylic locks. They feel like nothing like real locks." Oh, absolutely. These are terrible. People throw shade on things like this, but these are actual real locks that are used, and they are consistent and have good feedback. This, not consistent, terrible feedback, will open with pretty much anything, but really, really, really good at demonstrating how locks work. So I do recommend people get them, but not for learning to pick, more about learning positioning, pin positioning, binding, and seeing visually how locks work, because some people can't quite imagine a lock until they see it. So yeah. I want a hidden lock picking kit hidden inside a credit card. I see one, but it's not good. Any idea on one? Actually, there are some really good ones. OFC make a good one. Vent, I worked with Talonpick and Vent to make a good one. The Sparrows ones aren't too bad either, and I helped design the second Chaos card. Did I say OFC? Yeah, OFC do a good one. They're all pretty good credit card pick sets, yeah. Okay, more questions. Kicks Picks, who sent me some lock picks the other day, which were really good. Said, I'm trying to read the question in it because it's quite a big comment. If one day decided to do a worldwide locksport event, what would it be like? So I don't know what that would look like, but I've been to the LockCon in the Netherlands 2 or 3 times, which is great fun. There's a Bristol event that the UK Locksport Forum do, which is in June, I think, which is really good fun. And quite a lot of the time, it's just a chance to just talk, swap locks, and drink. I barely pick anything on the first day of any meetup, even if it's just friends down the pub. It's just because, I don't know, just excited to meet people and talking. I just can't concentrate on it. To answer the question previously about competitions at meetups, they all are different. I think the German open picking competition even allows electric pick guns in there. It's open. As long as you get an open, it's an open. Obviously, it's not destructive, but the ones in the Netherlands, the open lockpicking competition in the Netherlands, has 3 or 4 rounds. Essentially, say 100 people sit at a bunch of different tables. Everybody gets a lock each. You get 5 minutes per lock. You shout open when you open it. You get a time. You write it down. That you swap the lock and you go round. The person who opens the most locks in the least time then goes on to the second round, where you have slightly harder locks, and then there's another round, then there's a final. But I think in the third round you might get dimple locks, as well thrown in. So yeah, and then the final, I can't remember what the final is, but I think it's just again a harder lock that you swap. You both try and pick one. It's really good fun. Hell Angel. Oh, Hell Angel. So Hell Angel is from the Netherlands. Sent me a care package full of Dutch food, which I really loved, and very grateful for. Question says, what motivates you to make lockpicking videos and share knowledge? Well, I used to be a teacher, for one, and I think that because I really enjoyed the hobby, and it gave a lot to me, and the community was so great, the feeling to want to give back and to help other people enjoy something you enjoy is very strong. So that's really why I do it. It's just because I like to share my knowledge. Do I think I'm the best lockpicker? No. Do I think I do the best lockpicking content? Almost certainly not. But you have to do it for you. You have to do it because you enjoy it. But what makes me enjoy it more is things like this, where I can talk to people and answer questions, things, and be part of that community, even if I'm not physically there with them. Benny says, hold on. Could be an entire video, it says. Many lockpickers, as they advance, have developed their own style of picking. For example, Lockpicking Lawyer seems quite concise on pins and very tough on picks. Chris Capoon floats in the keyway, almost never picking off the warding. How would you describe your picking style? I'm a lever pick. I lever, even if I'm picking. So I always try to pick off something like this. I always lever off the warding, even when I'm picking this way up, which I do poke down more, but I'll try to lever off warding where I can. Is that the best way? I would say that if you can learn to be precise and push rather than to lever, that's probably the better technique. It's a bit like learning guitar. It's easy to get sloppy, but once you've learned that way for many years, it's very hard to get out of it. That being said, I picked some pretty difficult locks that way, so I'm not going to beat myself up too much over it, but yeah, I do tend to always lever off some warding in a lock if I can. Oh, Dana Reed says, as far as they're concerned, I'm still a teacher. I teach people all the time. Thank you. Sean saying, would I collaborate with Lockpicking Lawyer and get Bill again? Yeah, absolutely. I'd always collaborate with those guys. They're awesome and have done a lot for the community. Teacher, what subjects do I teach? I don't want to dox myself too much, but I'm a scientist by trade. Not now, though. Yukov says that he only levers off a lock when picking medicos. Otherwise, he's a bit of a poker on the pins, a pin poker. Oh, Fred Fiendstoner. Good to see you pop up there. So, any other questions? I got Vicente Rivera. How long have you been involved in locksport? Oh, so this is interesting. So I can't remember, it's something like, I don't know exactly, but it's May the something, 6th or something, I can't remember exactly when, but that's when I first did my first video on YouTube. So it's taken me almost exactly 6 years to get to 100,000. Adam Trammell, who sent me stuff in the past, said, congrats. In which order did you learn to pick? Pin tumblers were first, but maybe lever locks? Oh, it's a bit of a mix. I went through this thing where I just ended up sort of buying any tool I could get hold of, which is a bit silly, but I don't regret it because I've continued to use those tools and demo them. But I don't know, sort of just, I think a lot of people do when they get into a hobby. They just try and like buy anything they see related to it, regardless of whether it's good, bad, indifferent, or whether they really need it or learning anything from it. But no, I started doing pin tumblers first, and then I think I went on to lever locks, and then I left disc detainers for quite some time. And I think the lock type which I really enjoy picking now, but was quite intimidated by it for the very longest time, is dimple locks. They do require a different set of picking skills, but are so satisfying when you pick them. So yeah. Stick Nux says, again from YouTube, congratulations. Can you live stream and show to all of us all your collection? So another one. I need to do it someday, but honestly, you've got no idea how spread out across the house, hidden away from Mrs. Lock Noob, all my lock collection is. So that would just be genuinely really hard. Maybe I should do a video of all of Yukov's locks, because Yukov has provided probably about 20% of the locks you see on my channel from his own collection for me to actually borrow and then show off. Half of my videos in the first year were his locks. Locknut says, still haven't defeated Dimple Lock except by bypassing one. Honestly, get one of the Master Lock Dimple Locks or an Iseo R6. They're really good to go. Or a multi-lock Garrison. I know it's 7 pins, but the feedback's excellent. Nox Locks says, I swear I didn't ask them to ask this question. You've designed my favourite pick, the Monkey Paw, which is this one, which looks like a notched pick because it sort of is, but it's not center notched, it's more like a shelf. And the idea of this was so that you would drag it so you sort of feel the pin sort of rest in as you pull it back through. It worked better than I thought it would and has become really popular with some people. I know some people won't like it at all, and it's certainly, because of its sort of medium hook, isn't perfect in really small keyways. But yeah, anyway, is the Peterson Gem still my favourite? Yeah, I'd say so. I just think it's a solid choice. I just really like it. Peterson, one of the companies I've not ever worked with either, or been sent anything by, for that matter. So yeah, it's still pretty much my favourite. Who's my favourite company to collaborate with? I wouldn't embarrass anybody by saying. What I would say as an insight, though, is that all companies and suppliers, so it's not just the lockpick makers, but the people who resell and modify and do things, everybody is so different. I mean, just like people, they're all people behind the scenes. I know there are big websites and companies and whatever, but behind the scenes, they're just people, and they're all very different people and interact in different ways with different frequencies, and I have different relationships with different people, like we all do, really. It's just really interesting. But what I can say is that I've enjoyed collaborating with everybody. Actually, everybody in the community and the industry at large have all been really nice. I mean, there are always some rubbish people in every walk of life, but quite honestly, this community isn't that toxic. Just trying to have a look. Barry Brimble says, it's on YouTube, find it difficult to find pins when I'm picking, haven't got any advice. I think it's really hard. Without seeing what somebody's picking, really hard to give advice about how you can feel for binding pins. What I would say is, in general advice, is make sure that you're tensioning properly, that you're not, can you see this, where I've chosen a tension tool, sorry, not the camera, which is too small, and it's actually, you probably can't tell, but can you see that? It's locked itself between the core and the body. There's a lot of things like that where you're not actually turning this middle bit, you're essentially gluing the two moving parts of the lock together, which is rubbish. So one, make sure that you've got really clean tension and that you're not binding the core to the body of the lock. That's one thing. The other thing is, just keep gently increasing the tension until you can feel at least one pin not move as easily as it did before. That's probably the point where the tension starts. Some people think that new pickers put too much tension on. That can be the case, but some don't put enough for the particular lock. Any other questions from the chat? Unlock says community is great. Yep, I agree. Oh, Mr. Cocklitos is here. That's awesome. Mr. Cocklitos works with OFC as well. Designed a number of really great credit cards type tools. Some of the picks. I think the moustache pick. Also, the pick which is shaped like that which XP Mods has made, and if you go to my side channel, which is called Side Noob, wonderful play on words there, thank you very much, then you'll see the review for that pick, and it's very funny. Yukov just sort of say it. You can type it in the chat, Yukov, it's fine. You picked... Oh, so somebody else asked this. Why Lock Noob? It's because when I started the channel, I only did it to show one of my mates who's living in Australia and my nephew that I could pick a lock. And I was basically just aping Bosnian Bill anyway when I started, and probably for the first year or two. So Lock Noob was really just a... because... I don't know, just because I was a lock noob. Unfortunately, once people started picking up my designs and concepts and producing them commercially, I forever got sort of bound to the name. And I semi-regret it, if I was to be absolutely honest. I've been flirting with the idea for years, and I never will, by the way, change it to LN Lockpicking. I am Lock Noob, it's just who I am. It has actually turned people off. In some comments, I get people saying, as if I'm going to learn from a noob. After 1,000 videos. So it does backfire on me a little bit, but I try to twist it a little bit in the description, saying that saying that really my channel is focused on new and intermediate pickers. That is true. And sometimes I say to people that we're all still learning, we're all still noobs, and there's always another lock, there's always new technique, there's always something new, and that's also true too. But no, do I regret choosing Lock Noob? Yeah, 6 years down the line, a little bit, but it's what I am. It's what you stick with, and I guess it's like, when you have a name which you never like, so you never like the name your parents gave you, but you kind of learn to love it in later life. It's a bit like that. Besides, people who do know, they know, and they're the people that are worth having around anyway. Lockhack says, have I tried talking to anybody at Peterson about making one of my lockpick designs out of government steel? Look, always willing to work with somebody to get a design out that I like. But I've said in a million videos how much I like Peterson picks, but I've also criticised them in the past. So I don't think they're going to be knocking on my door anytime soon. But hey, you never know. Who knows? General Duck says, if choose one lockpick for the end of my life, what would it be? Now that's really hard, because I would say, even though the gem is my favourite profile, if I could choose one, it would just be a lockpick like that sweet spot between the short and the medium hook. That's where 90% of the locks that I would normally encounter would probably a slim shanked one, about 23 thousandths, something like that. That would get you into probably the majority of locks, so something around that profile. Oh, this is a great question. This is Thanatos. Do I have any guilty pleasures when it comes to lockpicking? So many guilty pleasures. I've mentioned a few before that I still like picking locks like this, just because I said that association with starting lockpicking and thinking that they were great locks. So yeah, that is a really big lockpicking guilty pleasure, I have to say. War Mitag, if that's the name, said, when given an unknown lock, what order do I choose different rakes to try? Good question. I think most people would probably look at it and try one of the peaked rakes, like these ones, first, just because they strike on the most amount of pins at the same time. And then probably, if not, go to maybe a worm rake of some kind. I might have one in here. Yeah, so like that, was a bit softer for lower security locks, because they're not as brutal on the pins. If you have one of those peaked sets where I don't know if I've got one to hand, probably don't, but you know the ones where you've got a single peak, a double peak, triple peak, and then the triple peaks are split, so like they're like that, and then they're like that, and then like that. You know, those ones, it doesn't really matter. I'd probably start at 2 and 3, and then just try them all until I got a full set. That's what I use them for, to get myself into a full set quickly. Any questions from the chat? What can I use as a makeshift lock handle? Oh, good question. This is my favourite material. I would recommend this for anybody. It's one of the easiest and best to do. So, two things I'd recommend is some marine grade, because it's got a glue layer, quite thick shrink tubing. This, by the way, shrinks down to that, and I overheated it there. But this is a really good example, so you can use, and I would definitely recommend that. But also, I don't know if I've got a pick in here with it on. Yes, I do. This is just 13mm cable tie. Comes in all sorts of colours. The coloured ones are a bit more expensive, but you just get a bit of, this is JB Weld, and you just put the pick in between and then glue it and file it down. I mean, I just ran a bit of a lighter around the edge, but this makes a wonderful pick handle. Just compare it to this, and you'll see that the thickness, the robustness. This is full tang as well. I couldn't recommend it more. And I think I'm the first person to have used a full thickness cable tie for a lockpick handle, outside of some people I think use them for the wiper blade ones, but you know, in terms of like a full-size lockpick for that. So yeah, definitely recommend this. Very good material. Oh, how do I approach companies with my ideas? Well, back in the day, I think it's only Sparrows Lockpicks who on their website said, if you've got any ideas, contact us. So I went in with basically I drew up a design called the Boom Slang, which New Zealand lockpick maker who now does a lot of design work with Law Lock Tools, Tiffany, always get the name wrong. He realised that design, made me a prototype. Then we sent that into Sparrows, but they didn't initially go with that design. Sparrows checked out my YouTube channel and saw my checkers and chess pins, the check pins, and made those first, and then the Boom Slang came out as the Medusa. It's all a bit weird, but so essentially, just reached out to the company, and then other companies have approached me as well, and I've gone to other companies. I think that one of them said once, hey, do you ever want to do anything with us? I went, well, when I got a design that I think is for you, because I sometimes think of something and then go, which company do I think would do this the best, or would most suit their catalogue? And it's strange, but yeah, just reach out. Sometimes is the best way. The one thing I would say is, don't go in with an idea. Go in with something that works. I'm just trying to have a look at any other questions. Any other questions? Okay, so oh, we need more giveaways. So somebody did say giveaway. I actually have one lined up. You'll be very glad to know. I'm waiting for a very specific thing to happen, but give it a couple of months and there will be a giveaway coming up. Any other questions from YouTube? Roy Salmons, who's always popping up on the comments. Really appreciate their support. Have I got any more family interested in lockpicking? No. Already popped up on the live. 14 Blues. How do I tell people about my hobby? Honestly, I just try not to talk about it too much. It's usually when I'm in a group of friends and somebody doesn't know me that my friends will go, "Oh, and by the way, he picks locks." I don't need to anymore. I usually get somebody else telling somebody else about it. But yeah, after a couple of beers, I normally will just tell people. You just got to answer all the questions, don't you? Like, "Oh, you're teaching people how to be thieves," and like, but not really, are we? It's a bit like saying to martial arts instructors, "You're teaching people how to kill." It's just not. It's just not how it works. Jeffrey Fowler. Okay, I ask you saying, what's the meaning of life? Okay, meaning of life. That's a hard one. I would say it's probably to seek the most happiness by doing the least damage. Interpret that as you wish, but I think if you or harm. So if you can find happiness without with reducing the amount of harm you do to the world and those around you, and make others happy, then I think that then that's the sweet spot. And if you can be happy through making others happy, that's when you really got it. I think so. The meaning of life is that's about as close as you'll get from me, I think. Epithet said, "Why do you call yourself Noob?" We already covered that one. And Mod Abdullah said, "Giveaway," and I've already covered that one too. Bart Cockett, I think. Wife looking angry at me from the couch. Have to go. Well, thank you so much for joining in. Best place to find locks for cheap? Nowhere these days. eBay used to be alright, but it's not anymore. Best thing to do is just hook up with somebody and do some trades. You get involved in the wider community. The problem is you've got to build up a bit of like collateral in terms of trust before you start going in. So you went to a forum or a Discord and went, "Hey, I'm new to lock picking. Who can sell me some locks or who can trade me locks?" Nobody will. So you got to almost like prove that you're not dodgy, that you're not going to run away people's locks, that you will actually honor a trade, that you know the value of what you're trading and all that kind of stuff before people will really get involved in a trade with you. But trading locks is a great way to sort of just keep locks circulating in the community without people having to like constantly buy locks. They can be really expensive. Do I know where I put my vape? Yes, I do. It's literally the last place you put it down. Do I have a Discord? No, I don't have a personal Discord. I'm involved in a few like Lockpickers United and a few other ones. Or at least I'm a member of. I again, I don't have time to run anything more with my channel. I'm already on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter, and and email, and it's so hard for me to keep up with everything. It really is. But I do it because I really love the interaction. It's just hard. Graham Roster, how do I feel about pushy or discourteous requests, such as review the Fratterberg Enterprises Hypermax Barbel Thumpet, which, by the way, is overpriced. So I don't get many. I've got one very persistent Chinese lock company who has contacted me on every single channel, and I'm not replied to them. I may, but the way they went about it was a little bit forceful, and honestly, I don't need sponsorship if it's going to annoy me. So, as opposed to people, very few people are pushy. I've had people get annoyed with me that I didn't reply to them on an email or an Instagram after like 3 days. I'm like, sometimes I don't like get to reply to people for like a fortnight. 3 days is nothing, I don't think people quite understand, and it's okay because so I don't expect people to understand. There's no expectation there, but Just from my own life, I work. I'm an active father. I love spending time with my wife and my children. I like cooking and playing computer games and seeing friends and going to the pub and lock picking. And I also have, like I said, I'm present on Discord and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and my emails. It's so hard for me to keep up. Sometimes when people get like really ratty with me after like not replying to them for 2 days, and quite often those are the kind of people that when you do reply, they don't reply back anyway. That's a bit annoying. But like I said, the 99% of people are awesome. I'm just trying to think what are good ways to find out the origins of a lock. Honestly, Google for the most part. There are some really great books, like I think that the high security lock book I mentioned earlier. Some really good materials out there, but for the most part, I always stick to the lock wiki and whatever's on Google I can find. Bert says what made me interested in locks. Already covered that one already. So and how to get into lock picking. So. Have I ever picked Medico Duracam? No, I haven't. So sorry, Julian Ward, I have not. Cranky Lockpick says, I like your replies when people think they're being helpful. Yeah, I don't get really annoyed at people. I don't get like snarky. I sometimes do, but it's very rare. One Polly Nature says, wow, so cool to catch a live stream. Thank you for joining. Rob from Canada, awesome, great place. Any other questions from my YouTube ones? Tharo says, what's my favourite cold beverage? Ooh, good question. If it's a beer, it's Doom Bar, great session ale. It's not like, is it like the best ale? No, but it is really good. Just trying to think. In terms of cold, daily, I drink a lot of Sprite Zero. Not a sponsor. Any other questions? Oh, this is a great one. Robert Bubb, do I play Dungeons and Dragons or any other pen and paper RPGs? So I'm addicted to watching a YouTube channel called Shut Up and Sit Down. It's about board games. I'm fascinated by the idea of board games. I don't have time to play board games. But the channel is so excellent that I end up watching literally hours of their content all the time because it's just so well done. And I can play the board games vicariously through them. So despite having no time. But I did used to play Dungeons and Dragons way back in high school for a very short amount of time. But I loved it. Why don't I do it anymore? Time, honestly, just time. I'm interested in so many things. I just can't do everything, and some things just have to go. But I remember reading the Dungeons and Dragons adjacent books, Dragonlance by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, and I only just found out that Tracy Hickman was a man, literally 2 weeks ago. So go figure. But either way, I would definitely recommend reading the Dragonlance novels if you ever get a chance. Lance Spikey said, with your extensive experience with locks, do I ever think about making some really good challenge locks for the community? Challenge locks. I'm going to get in trouble with everybody if I talk about challenge locks, aren't I? I don't like generally picking them. There are exceptions. So my issue with challenge locks is that I tend to pick a lot of commercial locks because anybody, by and large, could find one of those locks somewhere and have a go at picking them themselves. They might go, oh, I picked one of those, and find it interesting to see how I picked it, or be able to comment about picking it. Challenge locks, you have to trust in what people are saying about the lock, because the chances are you'll never get to pick it or experience it. So when they say it's really hard, is it? It might be. When they say this pin really gave me trouble, did it? Will you ever get to try it yourself? No. But that being said, there's so many good ones out there. The one I did recently genuinely was one of my favourite challenge locks with the articulated piston pin. Tobias and Julian, lockpicking Nord, they made some great content and then disappeared. Fantastic craftspeople as well. But yeah, they made one with non-articulated piston pins, which was excellent. and also like a triaxle Eurocylinder, which was really awesome. There's a lock called Streamliner, which was not very hard, but was very beautiful to look at. I think my issue is that I tend to just turn people down flat about challenge locks, not because I don't respect them or the time they put into it, but most challenge locks are not they're either not that hard to pick because you've reduced the tolerances by messing around with the pins, or are borderline impossible because of the amount of traps and overworking on them, and not so much fun. And it's hard to do a video when you just can't pick it. So it doesn't always make great content. I think if I did them now and again when there was something genuinely interesting, then people really like that. So I think it's one of those things where now and again, if it's a really interesting lock by the way it looks or acts or whatever, even if I can't pick it, if there's a story behind it and something I can show which is really interesting, definitely I'll do more challenge locks. But for the most part, no, I don't tend to do challenge locks anymore. Have I made challenge locks? Yes, actually, I made a few. I made checkers and chess. Those pins have been sort of redesigned, but are out as the check pins by Sparrows. I did one called Brandy and Wine, which didn't really go anywhere, but it's kind of cool. It's like little wine and brandy bottles with glasses and goblets. But that idea then did get morphed into a Christmas one where I took the wine and the goblet and then put snowman, Christmas tree, bauble and cracker all in that set, and that's now I called it Christmas Lock-In, and now that's the Scrooge pins, which are annually released by Sparrows around the Christmas season. And I also made a challenge lock called Firing Line, which again the pins were beautifully replicated, had to be said, by Sparrows and made into the munition pins which you can buy. So I did make a load of challenge locks which are all sort of themed pins, but I guess I didn't want to be like this one trick pony, so I haven't really made anything like that for a very long time. Maybe I should. Gavin Sterling, have I ever picked a Camlock branded tubular lock, the ones with close tolerances? I don't think I have, actually, no. Have you tried that lock from Tim? His locks are is it? No, I don't think I've seen that one, Daryl. Challenge locks are fun to watch on Bosnian Bill's channel. Yeah, absolutely. But even Bill gave up after a while, I think. I think there's what's it called? Diminishing returns after a while. Once people have seen them, like I said, I'm open to trying some new ones. But I think that I'd say to anybody with a challenge lock, email me first and describe what it is, and maybe some sort of pictures without spoiling what's inside the lock. Just because I want it to be interesting for everybody, that there's some interesting design or story behind it, or it looks great, or I want it to be something which you can share the enjoyment of without having to necessarily pick it yourself. Does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe I'm just rambling on. I got some stuff from Instagram, I think. J Gabriel 1973 said, just waiting for a million milestones. He's been a very good supporter of the channel, so thank you. Some Adriano Della Casa, tell us please how to deal with stuff like assisted counter rotation floating. Oh, we'll cover that already. I will have to do a separate video on that, genuinely, because float picking is hard to explain. I need to have a front cutaway to show it, I think, and I might do an advanced tensioning video, or a whole video on basic, intermediate and advanced tensioning techniques, maybe. Definitely a video there, isn't there? Do you think there'll ever be a lock that can't be picked by anyone? That actually works with a key? Possibly. I've not seen anybody pick the Bowley Rotacera. Is that yet? There's a lot of locks out there which I think could be technically impossible to pick. Maybe, don't know. Trevor Young, we've already talked about cheap locks. I mean, obviously there's eBay and flea markets, but getting involved in wider communities on Discord, Facebook, forums like key picking, lock picking 101 UK Locksport forum, Reddit. There's all sorts of things, and getting trust within the community is a good way to buy cheap locks and trade cheap locks as well. Yeah, Protect 2 has definitely been picked. Oh, but one of those locks which in the field, virtually impossible to pick. Dimitri Moratis about the Protect 2. Yeah, absolutely. I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, I always get the name wrong. Hearn has done it. I think Huxley Pig has done it. There's a couple, I think, who've done the Protect 2. Oh yeah, and agree with you, Kit Lane. Sometimes a lock requires a very specific tool, and you know, unless you're going to scout out no locksmith's going to like scout out a lock and learn to pick a specific lock, are they? Not really, not unless there's a very good need to do it non-destructively, not when there's so many destructive methods. Andrew McGill. So I have a way of picking this to about 4 pins, and I've made a little cover to show the insides of it without it all pinging apart. It's not a picking aid because the pins just come out, but I think it's possible to pick. Basically, what I'd really like to get a full pick on camera, but to do it is so hard, like genuinely difficult, that I might just do a video on it anyway. I'll give myself a few weeks longer and I might find some time to do it, but this is a fantastic lock. Locknut says some tools are too expensive for amateurs, only worth the price of a locksmith. Yeah, this is so funny actually. When you look at how expensive tools are that are sold to locksmiths compared to the ones sold to hobbyists, when people complain about, oh, this is like £200 for this, I'm like, really, there are picks for single locks being sold to locksmiths for thousands of pounds each, and for those locksmiths who come across those locks in their work, especially safe smiths, it's worth it because you'll make the money back. Not so much for hobbyists. Gav says a luxury being a locksmith and a locksporter. Yes, absolutely. Any other questions I've got from anywhere? I think all the ones which I got off the social media I've sort of whizzed through and answered, I think. Oh my goodness, we're already at the 2-hour mark. I might have to give my voice a bit of a rest. Yeah, even if I can't pick the whole lock, I might try and pick 4 pins to show that it's possible to at least get somewhere with the picking, and leave it to other people downstream to learn to pick the lock if it comes out, because it's so cool. Maybe I'll just do like an overview video of the Andrew McGill lock and then do some picking of it with some of the chambers and then come back to it 6 months down the line, picks. I don't know, we'll figure it out. I have the Gozo lock picks, but they seem pretty thin. What's your opinion on this? Oh, we talked about these before. My opinion is, if this is all you can afford, they will get you into locks, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. Is it the one I'd recommend to new pickers? No, it's not, because the picks are very thick in this dimension, the width. Even if they're quite thin in this dimension, the shank height. And this, by the way, is a lovely profile. I just wish it was a bit stronger and a bit thinner. So it's why I don't, again, I come back to it, it's why I don't say a lot of things are junk. They're not. Some people, this is all they can afford. It's what they got bought, or they bought it and that's what they have. Calling it junk's not going to help anybody, is it? This is actually useful. You can pick locks with it. It's just not what I'd recommend for a beginner. So that's what you've got. then it's absolutely fine, but you may struggle with the general width of this in some of the tighter locks. For American locks, as long as you're not too heavy-handed, you might be all right, but at some point, if you really like the hobby, you probably should go to a more well-known American, Canadian, European brand, because you're genuinely going to get a better product with better aftercare as well. And you can probably buy single picks if you break them and you've got a favourite. Also, long as I've sat to pick a lock in one sitting, failed to get an open. Oh, 6 hours. Ah, Law Lock Tools has popped up. We mentioned you a few times, Mr. Andy Law. I don't think you missed an awful lot, just me wittering on. But good to see you. Was the most effective picks in the Gozo set? Ah, it's a shame. Do I have? I might. Hold on. So, I don't know if I'll get an open, and I don't know if I can find the right tension tool. I've got this, okay, but my favourite one is it this one? So I like these for these locks, and I'm probably going to get the wrong one because it's a very specific shape in one of the locks, but these rakes are excellent at picking these locks. I don't know if this is one of the ones or whether I've got the wrong rake for this particular lock. It might be that one, or it might be this lock it works in. Let's try it. I haven't picked a whole lock tonight and picking these awful Chinese smiley dimples, but let's give it a go because I just want to show. Somebody asked a question about these locks and what's my favourite picks, and it's literally these rakes in smiley dimple locks and another dimple locks. I think they work quite well. I can't remember which one's which, and I'm sort of rushing myself a little bit on these, but you see me open these locks with these picks before, so you know what I'm talking about. Oh, there we go. Yay! Can't believe that this is the lock I picked tonight. Will I ever do another collaboration with Sparrows? I've got a couple of designs with them at the moment. Yes, Holly Wobbles. Any questions? Sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments here. Yeah, lockpicking under pressure. Yeah, it's just so you know one of these works with one of these locks, and you have two identical ones, and I just couldn't remember which one. But yeah, I actually like this set for the weird stuff that comes with it. That's why I don't recommend it for beginners, but as an intermediate, it's got some really fun tools. I think there's a Huck set which has similar stuff in it as well, which is quite good. The green handle ones, is that the Huck? Yeah, whatever. But yeah. Oh, Dimitri Maratis said, I'm working through my belt system. Should I get blue before green by gutting the 1100? It doesn't matter. I would say as long as you're having fun. It really doesn't matter. If you're having fun, pick whatever lock in whichever order you want, and don't worry about belt rankings. That being said, the belt rankings are really good fun too. Just don't, think it's a be-all end-all or get overly hung up by it, because sometimes if you set yourself unreasonable targets, you can end up putting too much pressure on yourself and not enjoying something which should be enjoyed. So as long as, like most things, as long as you're not putting too much pressure on yourself to do something which, isn't important, and a lot of hobbies just aren't important. Just look after yourself and have fun and just do what you fancy. You can always come back and re-pick any lock that you like. Anyone else loving, so 40 Blue said, anyone else loving the commando lock? Yeah, I really like doing it. I like the fact that you can, there's a key which you can use which will turn the core further and allow you to remove the shackle as well, which is really cool. Oh, Gav, I'm so glad you asked this. Do I think that Lishi has a place in locksport? Hard to say. Outside of demonstration and maybe learning binding, which is very good at, those tools are very good at allowing you to find binding pins. But I think as a tool to be used for picking, no, I don't think they're very good, because they don't teach you a lot of fun stuff. A lot of 2-in-1 picks are really great, but I wouldn't recommend that's where the hobby should be, because the hobby isn't about quick entries. It's about having fun exploring, picking the locks. That's why a lot of pickers SPP, even though they can rake the lock easily. It's because it's the experience of picking it, which is the fun part, not necessarily the quick open. Lishies are very good at that quick open in very specific locks. I do fear, and I hope that it's unfounded, that if Lishi picks for more different types of locks become more popular and easy to buy, then picking with them may become something which criminals will choose to do over destructive entry. The reason why lockpicking general isn't a problem, that's why we can have lockpicking tools and we can have lockpicking channels, and we can do all the things that we enjoy doing, is because lockpicking isn't really, in the UK at least, a problem. Most crime is opportunistic for the most part, and when it involves locks, it's usually a destructive or bypass attack, right? So my issue with the Lishis is that, one, as a hobby, I don't think you're learning a lot from it. Although I think as a beginner you might enjoy doing it because you get the open, but after, I think that that's a limited window for that to be fun, and I'm concerned that they may become a problem which the governments may have to do something about, which may impact our ability to own, make and use lockpicks as a hobbyist. That would also have a major impact on locksmiths who, as we said earlier, don't actually have to be licensed in the UK and other countries either. So I have concerns about those tools, truthfully. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to know your thoughts. Oh, do I have a favourite one of my videos? This is from Hollywobbles. Great name, by the way. Really enjoyed making it. I really enjoyed making the video on the Ava, which not many people watch, the Chub Ava. It's a bit of a niche lock, but I really enjoyed making the video on it. I really enjoyed the process of making my 101 things lockpickers should know, because it started out as a list of like 10, and this grew to 101, and it took me literal days to make, and I'm so glad it's quite popular. It's not like crazy popular, but it was worth me making. That was quite a good one to do. There's been some really fun ones. Oddly enough, the ones where I'm making stuff, the filming is the worst bit. I enjoy the making of stuff and showing off at the end, but having to film and edit the making process is a real pain. So some of the videos I like because I've created something novel and interesting, or modified something. One thing I would say, which I really enjoyed, I don't have it quick to hand, is a video which was just really silly, and I really enjoyed making it, which was where I took a metal comb and made it into a comb pick, and I just found that so silly that it actually worked. I love that video. That was really good fun. Go watch that one. Do I plan on doing a collab with Lockpicking Lawyer? Who wouldn't do a collaboration with Lockpicking Lawyer? But I do know that he is so busy, and honestly, let's be honest, he wouldn't have a lot to gain from it. It would help me. Not sure it'd really help him, and if anything, it might actually not do him much of a favour to have somebody comparatively not very well known appearing on his channel. I don't think that would be really that great for him, but yeah, of course I would do it, but I don't think it's likely to happen, and honestly, it wouldn't be good for Lockpicking Lawyer to do that. Oh, did I see stuff made here? Yeah, a great channel, and a great mind. That guy's got some fierce intelligence, I'm telling you. Why in the UK the pins are up from the bottom? I think the question is why do we have locks like this with the pins down as opposed to this? I'm not entirely sure, because this is not really logically a great way, because any dirt that goes into the keyway goes into the pin chambers and falls down into the lock. You get some real dirty, grotty locks when you see old cylinders pulled out. Yukov will know all about that for sure. He's cleaned a lot of locks in his lifetime. So actually they should be like this. Now, a lot of people will tell you you must pick locks like this way up, because that's the way they are. Most of the time that is correct, but in a heck of a lot of commercial buildings, especially where I live, I don't know why, there's usually a lot of the locks this way up and some more this way up in the door. Now I think it's because of the way the latches, the hooks, come down in the gearbox from which are operated by the cam. They latch down, and the ones at the bottom latch up. And I think the locks are installed in opposing directions. I've seen mortise cylinders done the same way. So it's, I would say 99% of these locks are this way up. But in commercial buildings, shops, offices, that kind of stuff, seeing them this way up is very, very common. And if somebody said, which way up should you learn to pick these? I would say two things. Whichever way you enjoy doing it, it's a hobby. It's supposed to bring you enjoyment, so do it that way. But also, both ways up if you can, because that way, if you ever get the chance to pick a lock, you'll know how to pick pins either way up. But yeah, when you're at home and and let's face it, we're all hobbyists. We don't do, unless there's a few locksmiths here on the channel, but yeah, for the most part, for hobbyists, it shouldn't matter which way up you pick a lock, because it's just a hobby. Oh, Dark Arts lock picking from Australia, who actually lives very close to my best friend, and he doesn't know it. It says hi. Does Sparrows share sales info with you on Club? No. I don't ask any company for sales info. It's their proprietary information, and there's no reason, because I don't get sales money off sales of equipment, even if I design them. By the way, conscious decision not to pursue that. It's none of my business, frankly. How I tried doing my own lock picks. Yeah, I've made loads of custom lock picks. My last live stream, I showed them all off, actually. Yukov's saying terminology should be pin side and non-pin side. Yeah, he shouts that on the corners of streets sometimes, and has to get moved on by policemen. He's really transfixed by it. Sometimes he goes on about all sorts of stuff, like it's talk, not tension. Yeah, poor Yukov. Draw. I've really got to stop the live stream in a minute, but your Penna says, saw electric pick gun video and notices your comment that you do not use the cylinder tension. Have you ever tried it? So that the radial tensioner is really designed for applying a really nice tension control when you're doing EPGs. It gets in the way if you're doing hand picking. Even when I'm using an EPG, I tend to use a technique where I'm sort of resting the tension at the point where it goes into a false set, and it's really hard to explain, but you can feel when the lock's turned into a false set, not an open, so you can just flick it back. I just prefer the manual approach, but then I don't do a lot of EPGing. Probably best to ask a locksmith who does it more often. Oh, what order of difficulty would I put different types of locks? it's impossible to do so, because if I started doing lever locks, I'd probably think the pin tumblers are really difficult and vice versa. But if you ask me specifically which order, I would say at the highest end I'd put very high security lever locks and safe locks, then high security disc detainers, then dimple locks, and then pin tumblers in general. But there are so many exceptions to that, it's virtually impossible. Do I prefer top of the keyway or bottom of the keyway tensioning? Bottom of the keyway holly wobbles, but I'm forced to use top of the keyway all the time, probably the majority. Christian L says, "Hi, just got here. What's good substitutes for lockpicking kits?" Not sure. Don't you need to expand on that a little bit? So I don't know what you mean, Christian. I'm so sorry. Connor says, "What kind of pick would you say could be made by a paperclip and be effective?" Not many. Paperclips are made from the wrong steel to be effective as a pick. If you had to bend a paperclip, it would only just be just like a medium hook for picking very low security locks and wafer locks, I'd say. Okay, so yeah, I might just have to call it a day. It's been really wonderful. I've had a fantastic journey to 100,000 subscribers, and I'm honestly over the moon to have a really niche topic channel which shows hairy knuckles for the vast majority of a video. To get to that level of subscribers, for me personally, is astounding, and it could not happen without subscribers, people interacting with the channel, people caring about what I do for whatever reasons you care about what I do. But whatever that reason is, it's super appreciated. The community makes this hobby, and it's a fantastic community. And just seeing in the chat even how many of you already know each other and have interacted just proves that point. So all I'm going to say is thank you so much for your support. I'm going to go rest my voice now. It's been such a fantastic journey. I will keep making content, keep having fun, and keep on doing what I'm doing. So please just keep interacting, liking my videos, dropping me comments, and just keep supporting me the way that you have been, and that'll be just amazing. Thank you so much. It's been really wonderful. Thank you so much for all of your input tonight, all the amazing questions. I hope I managed to cover everything. If I missed something, I'm so sorry. Maybe you should pop it in the comments of the live stream when it uploads, probably in an hour or two once it's processed, and I might be able to manually answer those questions that I've missed. So yeah, thank you so much. You're all awesome, and I'll see you all soon.